should we follow in Australia's footsteps and ban under-16s from using social media? It is an idea it's being really widely debated now. Australia have gone ahead with it. There's a key moment coming next week when peers will vote on an amendment to a bill that's in the Lords, which would do exactly that. Basically, it calls for highly effective age assurance measures to prevent children under 16 from becoming users. Well, that amendment was co-sponsored by Baroness Berger, Luciana Berger, and Professor Amy Orban joins us as well, research professor and programme leader at the MRC Cognition and Brain Sciences Unit at the University of Cambridge. Good morning, both.
Good morning.
Morning.
Professor Orban, to you first of all, one of the difficulties is Australia has gone ahead with this, but we won't get any really decent data on whether it's working for a while, will we?
Yeah, so I sit on the advisory panel for Australia's scientific evaluation of the effectivity of the ban. And as you said, we don't yet know the impact that it will be having. We should know within a year. But to my knowledge, there has been no high quality scientific study that has specifically removed or reduced time spent on social media for healthy under 18s and systematically examined the consequences. So understanding the impact of Australia is really critical.
Yeah, and in terms of what you know already from the work that you do, can you draw a hypothesis on what the impact might be?
It's really difficult to really predict what will happen. It's really a world first policy, but it's also a scientifically first policy. Often we test things out in smaller scale studies beforehand, but this has really not been done. So naturally there could be real positives, time that is currently spent on social media being spent playing outside, playing with friends. But there's a lot of the scientific community that have also been concerned about unintended consequences, risks moving to other areas online, or maybe actually, the time not spent on social media being spent on something very similar, like watching videos, but not on actual social media accounts.
You've worked on a particular report that has been given to the UK government. It's been handed over, but it hasn't been published yet, has it?
No, so I led a large consortium of UK academic experts on social media and its impact on young people to really think about how we can improve this evidence base so that policymakers can make these judgments calls earlier in the future and that we can move more decisively. We did hand that in early last year. We're still waiting for publication.
Baroness Berger, on this point, I think almost any parent that you speak to would say, absolutely, this is a problem. Yes, something needs to be done about it. Is this the right way to tackle it?
Well, I'm certainly of the mind and view that this is something we definitely need. And obviously we look very closely to Australia, and I'm certainly encouraged by the report yesterday from Australia's eSafety Commissioner that shows that after just 1 month, we've seen 4.7 million social media accounts for under 16s closed, and we see the result, and we will see the result of that. Absolutely, parents across this country are calling out for this measure and have been for an extended period of time. They don't need any more evidence, and certainly we just know from the figures of how many parents over the course of the last 3 days have contacted their Member of Parliament. It's a staggering over 180,000 that shows the strength of view amongst parents. But it's not just parents, it's also young people themselves. There are 75% of the public that support this measure from the recent More in Common polling. But 56% of young people also call for this measure, and Gen Z themselves say that they would protect their children from social media and restrict them from social media for as long as possible.
Yeah, I wanted to talk through a couple of the arguments against this, and they're from the Molly Rose Foundation, who do excellent work, and they talk about, well, they say that parents are right to demand bold and comprehensive action, but that blunt and simplistic solutions aren't necessarily the answer. One thing that they identify is that children's need and wish to connect will not go away, so this might push them towards more high-risk, less well-regulated platforms as a result. So how would you mitigate that?
Well, I think there's lots of the arguments that are being rehearsed at this moment are some of the arguments that we heard in advance of some of the other safety measures that came forward under the Online Safety Act. I don't believe there is evidence to suggest, in particular, there's some suggestion that we'd see more children gravitating towards the dark web. What I think we should do is adopt the precautionary principle and look at how we can support and protect as many children as possible. And of course, we will always see, as there have been, of restrictions around alcohol or smoking, for example, young people that will try to circumvent those rules. But if there is a way in which we can protect the overwhelming majority at a time when we know that the evidence is in front of us and we are receiving very, very strong warnings, be that from our teachers, from clinical experts on the front line that are seeing every day the impact of this
But are you listening to this pushback? I noticed that you talked about the arguments being rehearsed. And the argument I was giving you there was from a foundation that works very hard every day to ensure the well-being of children. This is not a social media platform that wants to continue advertising or anything like that. They talk about teenagers being at risk of a cliff edge when they turn 16. Are you just dismissing these arguments without considering the impact they might have?
Absolutely not. And obviously I look first and foremost at those arguments and debates that were had in Australia and the time taken in Australia to bring forward the ban. And the proposal that we are bringing forward next week in the House of Lords is saying that we should take 12 months to consider this about how it can best be implemented and to leave it to the government to decide and determine which platforms should be included in a ban. But I'm certainly clear that we have a duty to keep children off these harmful social media sites. And it's the algorithmically addictive content which has been designed to exploit them, which is having that impact in which we can make a massive difference to remove our children and young people from. And certainly, there's the raft of arguments, but the idea that by not exposing children under the age of 16, that we're not equipping them, every single day we are exposing our young people to really harmful and dangerous content online, be that content that's around violence, content that's impacting on their mental health. And what we're seeing in this country is an explosion.
And I think most people would agree with that. I think most parents would agree with that. It's all about the methods and how we tackle it best. I think, just as a final thought, as we said, you've co-sponsored this amendment on the bill. Do you think it will pass through the Lords? And I suppose, do you think it will also be voted for in the Commons?
Well, we obviously see what will happen on Wednesday. We're looking forward to the debate. There's certainly a vast swathe of members of the House of Lords from across the House that are supportive.
From the conversations you've had, though, are you confident it will pass?
I've certainly, the fact that you've got cross-party support on this amendment is a starting point, and I've certainly had many conversations with colleagues that have a number of concerns. And I looked at the media yesterday that reported in the Commons, they estimate that there are 70% of MPs that would support this on a free vote. So I think across both houses, this is a measure that we would look and we will hope to be introduced.
Baroness Berger and Professor Amy Orban, thanks for joining us.